This is a presentation to the Sydney community addressing the issue of affordable housing and how it affects the City of Sydney and key cities around the world. The problem primarily started after World War II with the rise of house prices. With the socioeconomic gaps that exist, the prospect of owning or renting a property within a world-class city today has become unaffordable. Fundamentally, affordable housing is a moral issue. Everyone should be able to afford a decent place to live. More than this, however, it has been shown numerous times that having a dynamic mix of social statuses within the same area creates a healthy, creative community. There are also serious health issues, behavioral problems, and labor shortages linked with substandard housing and the lack of affordable housing. The current Sydney 2030 strategic plan has set its targets for affordable housing. The city proposes to meet these targets by increasing the supply of affordable renting stock by 8,000 units through a combination of affordable housing levies, strategic partnerships with the federal and state government, the private sector, other councils, and the financial sector. The city's levy program aims to provide affordable housing in new developments in Zetland, Ultimo, Piermont, Glebe, and Harold Park. The 2030 plan has set out the following table to represent how they aim to meet the increase in affordable housing needed for the city. Singapore's affordable housing initiatives are one of the most successful examples in the world. As of 2013, 81% of Singapore's population lives in public housing, which is operated by the government unit known as the Housing and Development Board. After receiving self-governance in 1959, it was estimated that approximately 650,000 people would require basic housing. The government acknowledged the right for basic housing for all its citizens and realized drastic action would be needed. The HDB was established with two basic functions: provide housing of sound construction and good design for the lower income groups at rents which they can afford, and encourage a property-owning democracy in Singapore to enable the lower middle income group to own their own homes. The HDB also realized the importance of high-density housing to maximize the use of land. The HDB built thousands of apartments and high-rise developments with access to basic services. In 1964, the Home Ownership Scheme was introduced, which allowed its citizens to access their Central Provident Funds to put down payments on the properties they were renting. This has led to 95% of the population living in HDB accommodation owning their own property. The result is a population where affordable housing has become a source of national pride. The HDB also maintains an ethnic quota system for all its accommodation through the Ethnic Integration Policy. This policy ensures that each block of units sold maintains a diverse population roughly in line with the national average of its three main ethnic groups. The main contributing factors of the success of the HDB were strong government support and funding to tackle the housing needed by the country. The HDB was also granted legal powers such as the power to resettle squatters. San Francisco has been established as the least affordable housing market in the United States. Some unique initiatives proposed in the city are community land trusts, which are being used throughout San Francisco and are operated by non-profit organizations to develop permanently affordable housing accommodation by buying up land and taking the cost out of the market. The city has created dense senior living developments in the accessible locations of San Francisco with a focus on community interaction. The city has also recently passed two legislations to allow for accessory dwelling units. An ASU is a separate, self-contained unit on the same block of land as a primary dwelling. It is estimated that there are approximately 30 to 50,000 ASUs in the city of San Francisco. The first part of the legislation offers a way for existing ASUs to be brought up to code and legalized. The second part legalizes the construction of new ASUs. Previously, these were only allowed if they were dedicated for seniors. Recently in Berlin, developments known as Baugroups have formed in which cooperatives of like-minded people build communal living apartment developments in the city center of Berlin. These groups are generally themed in some way and build to passive standards. The result is that members receive custom accommodation for their needs, communal gardens and common areas to promote interaction, low energy bills, and properties are generally about 25% cheaper to build. The reduction in price is mainly achieved by cutting out the developer's overheads and profit with no marketing required. It has been proven to create a harmonious, diverse, and cohesive community. More than 100 major projects have already been completed, the majority in the last decade. Collectively, this amounts to thousands of new homes. The interesting thing about this example of affordable housing is that it is entirely self-initiated by the people of Berlin. It is clear from the population growth projections for Sydney that the city needs to explore more diverse measures to tackle this issue. While Sydney differs in many respects from the case study cities, I think a lot can be learned. A combination of solutions will need to be brought together, from smarter construction methods to communal living to smaller, denser, and more efficient homes and communities. One of the more important issues is removing the stigma attached to public housing that exists in Australia. The Singapore example clearly shows how public housing can be something to be proud of and create a dynamic and diverse community. Allowing access to superannuation would be an ingenious step to allow people to own their own property. In order to achieve this, however, it would require massive overhaul of government contributions and communication between all levels of government. From the Berlin example, we can clearly see how community activism can come together to tackle this issue without the help from local government. This, however, doesn't need to be a community-only endeavor, and the Bao Group example could easily be supported by Council to encourage community living. The current proposals as made by the Sydney 2030 plan are certainly a step in the right direction. However, more serious and drastic action will need to be taken. Inaction on the part of government will only accentuate the current problems and lead to a socially segregated city. Maintaining a creative and vibrant multicultural hub in the city is vital to a prosperous future and its continued development.